The Galactic Council had gathered in the neutral space above Kepler 442b, their massive vessels arranged in perfect formation, like jewels scattered across black velvet. Ambassador Veltar of the Hegemony stood before the holographic display, his forearms gesturing grandly at the assembled fleet. "Behold, primitives," Veltar announced to the human delegation seated at the far end of the crystalline conference table. "These are the instruments of civilized warfare. Each vessel represents 10,000 years of technological advancement, crafted by species that mastered the stars while your kind still cowered in caves." Admiral Brooks sat quietly, her weathered hands folded before her. The elderly woman had seen more battles than most of the alien commanders combined, though they dismissed her as another backward human. Behind her, Captain Rodriguez and Commander Smith maintained stoic expressions despite the obvious provocation. The Vorthan representative, a being resembling a crystalline spider, chittered with amusement. "The human ships are not even present. Do they expect to negotiate from a position of such weakness?" "Perhaps they forgot the way," laughed General Krex of the Dominion, his reptilian features twisted into what passed for a grin among his species. "Their primitive navigation systems likely failed them." The assembled aliens erupted in harmonious laughter, a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and growls that echoed through the chamber. They had spent the morning showcasing their technological superiority, displaying weapons that could crack moons and shields that could withstand stellar radiation. Admiral Brooks remained unmoved. She had requested this meeting not to surrender, as the aliens assumed, but to offer terms. The Galactic Council had been expanding aggressively toward human space, consuming worlds and enslaving species that could not match their military might. Humanity had watched from the shadows, learning and preparing. "Your silence speaks volumes, Admiral," Veltar continued, his translator rendering his words with obvious condescension. "Perhaps now you understand the futility of resistance. Submit to Council authority, and your species will be granted the privilege of serving as laborers in our great civilization." "I appreciate the offer," Admiral Brooks replied calmly, rising from her chair, "but I'm afraid we'll have to decline." The laughter died instantly. Veltar's compound eyes narrowed as he studied the human. "You misunderstand your situation, primitive. This is not a negotiation. This is a formal demand for surrender, and this is a formal rejection of that demand." General Krex slammed his clawed fist against the table. "You dare refuse the Council? Your pathetic species possesses perhaps a dozen functional warships. We have assembled over 3,000 of the most advanced vessels in the galaxy." Admiral Brooks nodded appreciatively. "Impressive fleet. 3,247 ships, to be precise. Each one a masterwork of engineering, I'm sure." The aliens exchanged glances. The human had counted their vessels accurately, which suggested more sophisticated sensor technology than they had credited her species with possessing. "If you know our strength, then you know resistance is impossible," the Vorthan representative clicked. "Why persist in this charade?" "Because," Admiral Brooks said, walking to the massive viewport that dominated one wall of the chamber, "you haven't seen our fleet yet." She touched her communication device. "Admiral Brooks to Task Force Command. Begin emergence protocol." The space around the alien formation began to shimmer. Reality twisted and folded as massive shapes materialized from hyperspace, each one emerging with a flash of displaced energy that lit up the darkness like newborn stars. The aliens pressed against the viewport, their earlier confidence evaporating as they witnessed the impossible. Human ships materialized by the hundreds, then thousands, each one dwarfing even the largest Council dreadnoughts. Where the alien vessels were elegant and sleek, the human ships were brutal and functional, their hulls scarred by countless battles and bristling with weapon systems that defied conventional understanding. "Impossible," whispered Veltar. "Our Intelligence indicated 12 ships at most. Your intelligence was accurate, Admiral Brooks replied. 12 ships were all we had when your scouts first entered our territory 5 years ago. We've been somewhat busy since then, the emergence continued. Massive carriers disgorged clouds of fighter craft that moved with precision no organic pilot could match. Battleships the size of small moons took position around the alien formation, their weapon arrays powering up with ominous energy signatures. Support vessels materialized in perfect coordination, creating supply lines and communication networks that spanned light years. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, consulting his tactical display. Final count, Admiral. 47,312 combat vessels. All systems operational and standing by. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. The alien representatives stared at the human fleet, in stunned disbelief, their earlier bravado replaced by something approaching terror. How? General Krex managed, his voice barely above a whisper. Admiral Brooks returned to her seat, her expression unchanged. You made an error in your assessment of humanity, General. You saw our small fleet and assumed we were weak. You saw our young civilization and assumed we were primitive. What you failed to understand is that humans don't just fight wars, we industrialize them. She gestured toward the viewport, where the human fleet continued its methodical deployment. When your scouts reported our location, we knew contact was inevitable, so we did what humans do best. We adapted. Every factory, every resource, every citizen of our colonies was mobilized for a single purpose. We turned our entire civilization into a weapon. Commander Smith activated a holographic display showing the human production facilities. Asteroid mining operations spanning entire systems. Shipyards built inside hollowed moons. Automated factories that operated around the clock, each one capable of producing vessels at rates that would have impressed the ancients. We didn't just build ships, Admiral Brooks continued. We revolutionized manufacturing. While you were content with your traditional methods, refined over millennia, we compressed centuries of innovation into 5 years. Every vessel you see was constructed using techniques that didn't exist when your scouts first found us. The Vorthan representative made a sound like breaking glass. Your entire species, you weaponized your entire species. We unified our species. Admiral Brooks corrected, something the Council has never managed to do. You rule through fear and domination. We chose cooperation and mutual purpose. Veltar seemed to collapse in on himself. What do you want? Peace, Admiral Brooks said. Simply. Real peace, not the subjugation you call order. Withdraw from human space. Release the species you've enslaved. Dismantle your war machine and join the community of civilized worlds as equals, not conquerors. And if we refuse? Admiral Brooks looked out at the vast human fleet, each ship representing the hopes and determination of billions of humans who had refused to surrender their freedom. Then you'll discover what humanity learned long ago, she said quietly, that the only thing more dangerous than a species that fights for survival is one that fights for each other. The Council ships began powering down their weapons.chat controls, Sonnet 4.